You're listening to the Turn Autism Around podcast, episode number 140. Today, I am interviewing my online marketing mentor, Jeff Walker, who is not in the autism world. He is not an autism expert, but what he brings to us today is information about how to disseminate information globally, how to think about how you might work in the digital world, how to grow a business, or how to move from one-to-one coaching to more of online autism programs. So it's a fun, interesting conversation. Hope you love it. Let's get to Jeff Walker. Thanks so much for joining us, Jeff.
Thanks for having me, Mary. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, we've known each other now since 2016 in person. And so I was just kind of chatting with you. And I usually, for every episode, I've started with describe your fall into the autism world. But you are actually probably the guest with the least autism information that I've ever had on. So do you have any experience with autism?
No, I mean, my experience is my experience with you and what I've learned about the autism world just from watching you and your work and the casual conversations. I didn't even know how to talk about it before. So yeah, I don't. I just actually had some new neighbors move in. We have a very, very tight-knit neighborhood, and they have a son who is on the spectrum. As far as I can see, my unbelievably unpracticed eye, very high functioning. But so I'm getting to know him. It's actually a lot of fun to watch him and be around him. And yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, but the reason I did want to have you on is because you know a ton about how to disseminate information, how to create and launch businesses. And I know you basically created launching of informational products many, many years ago. And I know there's a lot of listeners that maybe are in the autism world, but they have hobbies and interests, or maybe they're married to somebody in business, or want to start thinking about how they could get their information to go a little wider. So, okay, so we'll start with how I found you. I read a couple business books, and I was trying to get my message out online. I was going door to door. And then I was also traveling around the whole world speaking about autism. And I knew that I had, a formula, an approach, the Turn Autism Around approach is now called. And I wanted to get it out online. And this was after I got my PhD in about 2011. People are like, well, what are you going to do now? You're going to teach at college? And I'm like, well, I'm going to try to figure out how to get my message out online. And so I found your book called Launch in 2014. It was published, and that's when I read the first edition. But now, just a few weeks ago, the the expanded edition of Launch, new and expanded edition of Launch, is out on the market, and I read it cover to cover. I actually bought two versions. I bought the hardback and I bought Audible. I like to do that with really good books. I like the author to read me the book in double speed, and I like to have a hard copy so I can underline or highlight the interesting facts. So the subtitle is How to Sell Almost Anything Online, Build a Business You Love, and Live the Life of Your Dreams. And some people that don't know you, I mean, you are very well known in the industry of the online space, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't know you. But why did you initially write Launch, and then why did you update it?
Well, so I started my first online business long ago in the 1990s, in 1996. And I was a stay-at-home dad with a couple of young children. And my wife is supporting the family. And my wife, Mary, you've met her many times, and she was supporting the family. Times were tough. There was not much money to go around, and I just wanted to find some way to contribute financially to the family. And my goal was to make $10,000 in a year to help support the family. And that would make a great big difference. And so I started publishing online. I started back then, it was hard. It was really, really hard.
Was AOL even out in 1996?
Oh yeah, AOL was definitely a thing for sure. Yeah. But it was like the world was transitioning from AOL to the internet, really is where we were in 1996. But like putting up a website was really, really hard. Things like blogs didn't exist. Of course, Facebook, Instagram didn't exist. Google didn't exist. But I started publishing a newsletter, and the newsletter is about the stock market because I had a passion for the stock market. I had no credentials. I wasn't a stockbroker or a registered investment advisor, didn't have any initials after my name, just a real passion for it. So I started writing a newsletter about it. And eventually I decided to try to create a paid version. It was a free newsletter. So I decided I was going to create this paid version to see if anyone would buy something from me. Now, at that time, I had no business experience. I'd been in the corporate world, had not been very successful in the corporate world, which is why I was a stay-at-home dad. I just did not fit in that corporate world. I couldn't figure out how it worked. And so no business experience, no marketing experience, no sales experience. I just had this newsletter with several hundred people that were following it. And that had just grown through word of mouth. The first edition of the newsletter was sent out to 19 email addresses. One of them was my second email address. One of them was my wife's email address. So really 17 people outside of my house, that first newsletter, but it grew through word of mouth. And then I had hundreds of people subscribed. And I thought maybe some of these folks would pay me for something. And so I came up with an enhanced version that would be the paid version. But then my problem was I had to try to sell it, and I had no sales experience, no marketing experience. And there wasn't anyone teaching online marketing then because online marketing barely existed. There really were. There's just a handful of businesses online at that time. And so I thought, and since I didn't know how to sell, I decided I would try to make my people fall in love with me. And so I started delivering even more value beyond just that free newsletter. And then eventually led into the launch. So I delivered a lot of value ahead of time to try to get them excited. And that's the core of what I teach in my business. We now have this thing we call the product launch formula or the launch formula. And really what it is it's an expanded, codified version of that, delivering a lot of value ahead of time and then asking for the sale. But back then, the idea of a formula or teaching marketing or teaching business or having a successful business was all way in the future. Back then, I was just, desperate to hopefully make some money. And that first launch did $1,650 in sales. And everyone's got a different frame of reference for money. But for me, that was a huge amount of money. I was like doing backflips, not really, but if I could, I would have been doing backflips. And then I thought, wow, if I did this once, I can do it again and again, and I might even get better at it. And that's what happened. And over the years, I got better and better. And then in 2005, I developed this to the point where I started teaching it. I came out with an online course in 2005 teaching this formula. Had lots and lots and lots of successful students. It literally, and this is going to sound like a very braggadocious, but it literally changed the way stuff was sold online. It really changed the very nature of online marketing. And then as the years went by, this idea of writing a book that basically gave the formula in the book came to me. A few friends vigorously told me I needed to do it. And then I had this idea, like really like I said, it changed the marketing world. It changed the online business world. And I'm like, someone at some point, when someone sits down and writes the history of all this, someone's going to get credit for this. And since it's my baby, since I'm the one that created it, I might as well be the one that gets the credit for it. So I think I'm going to write a book, and that maybe that'll put like a stamp, like the stamp of approval. And so that was one reason. The other reason is I knew that it would bring clients to me. I knew it would grow my business. And then the third reason is my online course is not inexpensive. And I knew that if I put a book out there, it would just help that many more people. If you could have a Kindle book for $12 or a hard copy for $20, that a lot more, it was more accessible and it would help more people. And, I wanted to do that because it felt like a good thing to do, but I also wanted to do it because I know that in a selfishly, I knew that the more people were having success with my formula, whether it was from the book or from my course, the more it was going to grow my business. And Mary, you're an example. You're right now, this is an example, right? Because you took this and you've had extraordinary success building your business, getting your message out there, getting the word out there, helping so many parents. Now you've built up this great big platform because of that. And now you're hosting me on your podcast that gets a gazillion downloads with each episode. So
yeah, it's kind of a meta thing. And your book launch that I read on a plane ride to and from Germany where I was speaking and took 8 pages of notes. And I literally was like, okay, page 23, write this kind of email. And I did. And I followed it to a T. And it worked. I read the book in late 2014 and March 2015, I started my first online course. It's still selling. That same course is still selling still today. And then I went on to create another course. And then my third course, which is a toddler preschooler course. And I saw you for the first time. I bought the book and I launched, and I didn't even have your product launch formula course. I literally just did it from the $15 soft cover version. And then you were presenting live at LaunchCon 2016. And I'm like, I'm going to go see this guy, because I didn't ever get invited before because I wasn't a part of the PLF community. So I was like, oh, he's doing something live and it's going to be advanced launching. I had already figured out how to launch just from your book. I was already moving towards evergreen, started an accidental membership program. I was like, okay, it's going to be advanced strategies. I'm going to go and get some tricks and tips. And then when I went, I was just like, whoa, what is happening? There's 1,000 people there. You were giving away a Ferrari. There was a competition of top 10 launchers, and they're, all giving their 5-minute spiel on the stage. And I'm like, I'm there completely by myself. And I'm looking around I could be on that stage. I could do this. And, and right now I'm in my mid 50s. I was 50 or early 50, and I'm like, you know what do I have to lose? These people seem very positive, very genuine. And I didn't know you. You seemed very genuine. I appreciated the stories, but now I know you. I know I would, totally have your back and know that everything out of your mouth it's not salesy or sleazy. And that's what I loved and currently love about the Launch Club community. So I joined Launch Club basically for the number one reason of getting on the stage and getting top 10 the following year. And I actually got top 10, and then I won the whole competitions, which I think I've talked about here and there on the podcast, but not much because, I am out to give out autism information, whether it's free through this podcast or my video blogs or through my paid courses. But I am now basically an online marketer, and I'm trying hard to disseminate the information. So you recently updated the book, and why is that? And what's different about this book than the first version?
Well, so the first version came out almost exactly 7 years ago. And everything I teach is very rooted in strategies and things that are going to work for decades. That being said, there's always new tools coming out, and we're always coming up with new strategies. And there's also a perception in my world that something from 2014 can't possibly still work because the internet's evolved and digital marketing's evolved and it's moved so fast. It can't be youthful anymore. So because of that perception is out there, I felt like I needed to update it. And then I also added a whole bunch of new material about things like the idea of doing live launches, which is using live broadcasts, which is quite the thing these days. In fact, I've leaned heavily into that. It's not required, but it's a really great tool in addition to all the other tools. And it's a tool that, anyone can go live on Facebook at any time. If you just go into your Facebook account, anyone can push the button and do a live broadcast. And that's just one. There's many other platforms where you can do that. You can do it on YouTube. You can do it on Instagram. And the idea of doing a launch is you deliver a bunch of value ahead of time. Typically, there's 3 pieces. They could be emails, they could be videos, or they could be live broadcasts now. And those lead into the opening where you open your course or your membership or whatever it is you're selling. And I used to think that, I started doing these launches with live broadcasts, maybe 3 years ago. I think it was, it might have been 4, but I think it was 3 years ago. And it's been enormously successful. We built out this whole studio. It almost looks like a TV studio at times. There's lights everywhere and there's cameras all over and there's all kinds of fancy electronics. And so I thought that this idea of a live launch, it was like for super advanced people. But then we have people like, Anne LaFollette. I'm sure you've met her. I mean, she's, early 60s, was downsized from a corporate career, a very successful corporate career. One day her boss calls her in and says, you don't have a job anymore, completely out of the blue to her. And she, that she'd had this career that was like a defining piece of her life. And then it was gone. And she's, 59 or 58, 59, 60. And she's like, okay, well, yeah, I don't have anything to do, but she'd always been interested in art. And so her husband said, why don't you bring those art supplies from the basement up and get to work on those and start. And so she learned something called the surface pattern design, which when she first told me about it, I had no idea what it was. I had to go Google it. Even after I Googled it, I still didn't know what it was. It was hard for me to understand, but it's this idea of creating repeating patterns. Like you could doodle something, literally doodle it out, bring it into Adobe Illustrator, turn it into a repeating pattern. And companies actually will license that from individuals. And so you can actually make money doing this. And she learned it, she got good at it, and then she decided to start teaching it. But she had no online experience, no publishing experience, no video experience, no live broadcast experience, no marketing experience, no following, no social following, no email list, no product, nothing. But she just started every week doing a free class via Facebook, just by pushing that go live button, which everyone's got in your Facebook account. And she did that every week. And initially it was just her cousin was watching. She had an audience of 1. But then she did that every week after week and started to get comfortable with being on live. And then she did a test launch, and just to see if someone could possibly buy from her. Because like when I did my first launch, I was the same way. I was like, this idea that someone would actually pay me for something I created, outside of a regular job, that seemed foreign to me. But she did her test launch and she made $500. This was in late 2018. And it all came from doing those first live broadcasts and then doing a launch with live broadcasts. And so she started spending, then she's like, okay, I made $500, proof of concept. So she started spending $5 per day on ads in Facebook to drive them into her free live broadcast each week. And then it just grew and it snowballed. And then in 2019, she did 4 launches that totaled up to over $100,000. Again, this is someone started with absolute from scratch.
Yeah. And she was in her 60s and she didn't know any of the tech, and everything and you're describing, most of the people I know through Launch Club, which is one of your group coaching programs. And, you can start no matter what age, how much tech you have. And if you have a passion for something, like even for me, I've learned a lot online. I've learned from you online. I learned how to play the piano during COVID online. I've learned how to paint online. I've learned how to do webinars online. I've learned how to do my podcasts online. So I know, both as a provider of content and a consumer of content, that it is very powerful. And you've said it, like when COVID hit, we were all kind of almost paralyzed by like, whoa, what is happening? And I'm sure the listeners out there that either have children with autism or work with children with autism, they had, even more stress, because kids with autism in general are not easy to supervise. And when you're having no break, and then you're transitioning to homeschooling and working from home, and everybody's isolated and kids need a structure. And I can't even imagine. I know what my family went through, and it was not as stressful as many others with younger children, with less services available. And so, you've helped people, and Anne is in your book, and I know almost everybody that's mentioned in your book. I know from being in your world for the past 5 years. In fact, I do want to put this in the show notes. I did podcast interviews with Shelley Brander, who wrote a book and has a son with autism, but her book is in the yarn world, and she's an entrepreneur. We're going to link hers in your show notes. This is episode number 140. And then I also did a podcast interview with Julianne Carnes, who was all about abundance mindset. She's also a Hay House author. And I'm also a Hay House author with my new book, Turn Autism Around, which is partially definitely related to working with you, because I remember I was actually in Durango twice at Masterminds, and it was during a break, and I wasn't really thinking about writing another book. And one of our members, Irene Ali, came up to you. She found one of your launch books, your 2014 books, in another language, and she said, "Jeff, what language is this in?" And you said, "Oh, I have no idea." And I happen to be talking to you. And I said, "Oh, how many languages is launch in?" And you said, like 12 or 13. And I said, "Oh my gosh, my verbal behavior approach," which was published in 2007, still selling better than ever, is 12 or 13 languages at the time. And then I just looked at you and I said, "Jeff, do you think I should write another book?" And you're like, "Yes, you should." And I will connect you with Reed Tracy and the Hay House family. And between my first publisher and Hay House, it is like night and day. And I'm so happy and proud to be a Hay House author. But like, you endorsed my book, and Julianne Carnes and Shelley Brander, among lots of people entrenched in the autism world.
Yeah. We've got this great big community. So yeah, Shelley has been part of my world for a very long time, and Julie even longer. She goes back, been part of my world since 2009, 2010.
Wow.
So
Yeah. It is really and one common theme, while we're all in different niches and different focuses, is we are all, I think, very optimistic, positive approach. We're very much assess what the situation is, make a plan, and take action, and try to move yourself forward, trying to move your niche forward, trying to overcome obstacles. And when you get to the next level, then there's another level, and you just keep going, because that's what passions are about. That's what makes the world go round. That's spirituality and leaving a legacy. And we've had those kind of discussions too. So in your book and in marketing for your book, you have said that you've helped tens of thousands of people make over $1 billion. I think you were quoted somewhere as, being the $1 billion, guru. So in the autism and even in parenting space, and maybe this is just like everywhere, but everybody thinks and sees that people are very price sensitive. They don't like that idea. Like, even though I'm telling my listeners you're like the most authentic person, in the world, they still are like, he's spouting off, $1 billion and $100,000 and like, this is autism. We shouldn't be about making money. And why can't you just, I've gotten, in fact, I've gotten 1-star reviews saying all she wants to do is sell her course. She's not giving away the information in the book. Yeah, actually the book very much goes in line with my toddler course. Like, now, if you want to go deeper, then, after your book, just like I read your book and I wanted to go deeper. So I joined Launch Club and I got PLF and, went deeper. But your information in your book was very, very valuable, just like the information I believe in my book is very valuable. So how do you respond to people who want the information for free, who thinks all information should be free? And there is a lot of autism information for free. So let's talk about free information.
Yeah, well, I mean, the core foundational principle of my process is that you give away an amazing education, amazing information. So for me, when I launch my course, I do it in a launch masterclass, and I'll teach for anywhere from 10 to 12, sometimes it's 14 hours of live training, live streaming training. And then I invite people to go deeper. If they want to get the full course, they can go deeper. But my entire goal is to give away, is in that launch masterclass, that's free. You give us your email, it's free. And I want that to be like the second best training in the world on how to launch an online membership, a course, a product, whatever it is, a book, a series of paintings, whatever it is. And then the best training.
And between your book and your free workshop, that's how I did it.
Yeah.
And I was able to launch, but then if you want to go deeper,
then
the online course.
Then I offer my course. And then beyond the course, there's Launch Club, which is, not inexpensive again. It's a serious investment. But I mean, like, if you did looked at your return on investment that you've had, Mary, on that course, you couldn't even calculate that number. You could not even calculate that number. So, I mean, if people, first of all, if you want everything for free, you can get a lot of stuff for free from me, or you can spend, $12 for the Kindle or $20 whatever dollars for the book. Now, if you're on the other side, you're publishing, and you're like, I feel like I should give everything away for free, or my people tell me that I should give everything away for free. Well, I know a lot of people that have jobs, and when they go to their job, they're not going to their job for free, right? I mean, you're a nurse. I mean, there's a lot of nurses out there. Do they, people really need nursing. Nursing's really, really important. It's important people get cared for. So shouldn't those nurses do that for free? Doesn't it make sense that they should do it for free? I mean, that's the kind of, for the folks that, are insisting that everything's free. It's like, no, that's not the way the world works. You can't give from an empty cupboard. No matter how altruistic you want to be and how many people you want to help, if you really want to get your message and your work out there in a big way, then it has to be a business. Businesses have costs in time, and cost in materials, cost in resources, and you need to have revenue coming in. I now have a team of 40 people. That's 40 families are dependent on this business. We haven't added up how many kids, but there's a lot of kids in those 40 families. I don't know if we're at 100 kids or not yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if we are. They really like it when they get a paycheck. I mean, they're here doing great work, working really, really hard, working for our mission, and our mission is basically it's all about the future of all humanity, because I think that's what online education and what online entrepreneurs are all about, really, is about us getting our best knowledge and our best work out there, and helping humanity by sharing the wisdom and knowledge we've built up over our lives. But the reality is you if you want to be a force for good out in the world, it's very hard to do it without having a budget. It's very hard to do it without being able to spend money. And you can't spend money unless you have revenue coming in, even if you're a nonprofit. And frankly, we've had a lot of nonprofits do really, really well using our formula as well. So it's and there will always be people that don't want to pay anything. Well, then I've got my free stuff for them. That's great.
Right. You can go to the library, you can check out a book, you can get a free Audible or Kindle trial and read the book or listen to the book. And, there's ways that people can be very resourceful, but, there's also, in addition to money, there's time, especially when you're talking about the focus now of my new book and my toddler courses. If you have a toddler with early signs of autism, you need to start trying to turn it around. Start trying to teach them language, to reduce tantrums, to work on eating, sleeping, potty training. You can't afford to sit and wait for professionals to help you. And even if professionals are helping you, or you are a professional, you need to learn the approach to do it better, to do it quicker, to do it easier with less stress, because time is ticking for all of us. And, one of the books that actually led me to you was Brendan Burchard's book called The Millionaire Messenger. And basically in that book, he says, you basically, if you want to spread the word to millions, you have to actually make millions. And so when I hear people say, well, I'm just going to charge them, $4.99 to be a supporter on Facebook. And, it's a lot of effort to charge $4.99 to have the PayPal fees and the Google Forms and customer support. And, if you want to get there quicker, you need what we call curated content. You need the fast track in, because you could spend days and weeks and months sifting through my free content, and you might get a little trick or a little tip here. That's just for one thing, and doing it based on your formula or my formula, or teaching piano formula. You're gonna, and in every market, there's a lot of markets that say, well, my market is very price sensitive, so we have to go lower. But you've shown me over the years is that we are providing enormous value. And actually, if people don't pay for things, they don't really pay attention. They don't value things. So I think it's a good combo, because you are a leader in the field. You don't charge for stuff that other people would charge for. You give a ton of value away for free, and people that don't have the resources, and you really can get very creative, especially in the autism world. I just interviewed somebody for podcast, actually just 138, just 2 podcasts ago. She got my courses paid for through parent training, through her service provider, like through Birth to 3 agency in her county. People have done GoFundMe accounts. People have asked for it for Christmas gift or their birthday. So, people pay money for their kids. They pay for sports, they pay for piano lessons, they pay for, and this is important. And if you can get if you can get the resources, a variety of ways, I think in my situation, I have over the years, I have invested a lot of money in learning your formula, in being in the community of other like-minded entrepreneurs. And like you said, the value, the return on investment has been huge. And, what were my alternatives at 50 years old, going door to door and traveling around the world? Like, I have an important message. I have one life. You post this jelly bean YouTube clip. I don't know if we can link that in your show notes, but I mean, it's just basically you've got only these many jelly beans of your whole life, and and you have to decide how to live it. I love that. Love that jelly bean
Absolutely.
YouTube
Yeah.
clip.
I mean, and if you look at, I mean, you were impacting people, you were working with parents and toddlers, right?
Mhm.
And so you were making a real individual impact. And then you had your book and you're going around and speaking. And so, instead of helping one here, one there, you were helping dozens or hundreds.
Hundreds, yeah.
Now you're helping hundreds of thousands.
Mhm.
And
Actually, over a million
yeah.
have seen my clips. Actually, my one clip on YouTube is my most popular blog by far. It's almost a million. We can link in the show notes. It's called "Is It Speech Delay or Autism?" and steps you can take no matter what. And it's approaching 1 million. I mean, that's just for that one clip. But yeah, we get millions of people that are finding me in some capacity, but not millions yet, who are really invested in diving deep. And we'll see. I mean, we got lots of balls in the air at every level. It's a constant challenge to reach more and to make it easier, simpler, as inexpensive as possible to really help the masses. So it's a challenge. So we do have some professionals listening who I'm sure, like I was, going door to door, one-to-one, maybe some now one-to-one telehealth. So what advice would you have from going one-to-one to moving towards the digital space, maybe online courses?
Yeah, well, first of all, if you're a great way is to start one-to-one and build up that experience, build up the results. And then the next step would be small groups. And then from the small groups, and then the next leap is into more like online courses. And we have this process or I have this process. I always say we now because my team is such a big part of my life. So we have this process called the seed launch. And that's for when you're just starting out, maybe you have 200 or 300 people that are following you, or you have 200 or 300 people on an email list. So like you've worked with that number of people. And then you would offer basically a small group training and do it online. And it's you could just basically take whatever topic you want to teach and split it into 5 main areas. And then you do one call training on each one of those areas. You record it. You take surveys ahead of time to figure out what people need to know about those things. Even if you've been working one-on-one, going to teaching in a small group is a different environment. And what you're doing is you're basically creating what will become your online course, because all this is recorded. And when you're doing an online training, and you could do it via Zoom. It's probably one of the best tools to use right now, but you could do it in Facebook groups. You can do it any number of ways, but those are all recorded. And now you take those recordings, that becomes your product. Or if you want, you could re-record. I mean, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So when I did this afterwards, then I basically took what I taught, said what I want to change, and then I re-recorded it. But basically, you sell it ahead of time. You're getting paid ahead of time. Then you're doing this training. And the great thing about this is some people like me are procrastinators. But if you actually get paid and people have paid you for this thing, then you're going to go ahead, you will do those 5 calls and you will finish it and you will create it and your course will be complete. And so that transition from one-to-one to teaching small group to an online course, that's a well-trodden path. That's it's been thousands
and that's how I did all my courses. I followed the instructions in launch. There's a whole chapter on seed launches. I followed the instructions. I did a seed launch and never looked back, because the one mistake I see people making is they have an idea and they're like, I'm going to make this course. I'm going to video shoot it. And it's like, I say, like, if you build it, they will not come unless you know how to launch. So it's best to create it as you go with your people that want it, that need it. And it can be dynamic. They can get, experience with you. They can interact with you, which is high value. And I think it's definitely the best way to go. I also want to add that in the beginning, back in 2004, when I was working for a statewide grant in schools, I didn't have permission to take videos and stuff and use them. But then I also was involved with some just friends of friends who were like, Mary, can you look at my child to see, and I couldn't diagnose autism, but I had a lot of information that I could help them. So I would let them come over to my house in exchange for video permission to videotape what their child was doing, the interventions, what the child was doing afterwards. And so I still have a bank of many, many videos, and that's really helpful in the autism world is my courses are filled with video examples, just like your stories, your case studies with Anne and Barry and Michael. My case studies, some of them have also videos to actually see it, which is really powerful. So there's probably a lot of, most of my audience is female, and there's probably a lot of stay-at-home moms. So what kind of work is available in the whole digital world?
Well, it seems like these days, just about everything except for waiting tables is online. I just look at our team. Like I said, we've got 40 people on our team. So we have people,
and they're all virtual.
They're all virtual. And they always have been. And so everything from customer service to writers to tech people coding stuff, to event planners, to coaches. Obviously coaching has become a huge industry that is really facilitated by the whole online world. So just about everything that used to be in an office is all available now. And people are hiring, absolutely hiring. And of course, I'm the biggest fan of, creating your own thing. That's just get it launched. And even if it's not like a course, membership sites are really red hot right now. And they don't have to be overly complex or complicated. And also, I just had a blank there. But online courses, memberships, coaching. I mean, coaching, whether it's coaching, you could be a meditation coach or a life coach or a romance coach or a tennis coach or a health coach. I mean, coaching, that is an industry where I think just in the last few years, people have understood that whatever they want to get ahead on, it's like you were just talking about learning, piano during COVID. I've got a guitar coach that she coaches me online. And I think what people have opened their eyes to in the last just few years is that having a coach is just a shortcut to wherever you want to get to, whatever skill it is.
Right.
So,
right. And there are some people listening that are either board certified behavior analysts or speech and language pathologists, and like technically like telehealth, and you need to be licensed in that state. So, there are some limitations. However, if you want to become a parent coach or a life coach, using your background, just as long as you say, like, I'm not working with you in the context of a board certified behavior analyst. I mean, you can coach people and not use your credentials, but you do have to. I mean, Jeff and I aren't lawyers, so you do have to have, there is quite a bit of legal stuff involved in terms and conditions and privacy policies, and it does get pretty complex pretty quickly. So, I think reading the book would be your best first step, and go the book and all the information and all the bonuses are at thelaunchbook.com. And That way too, you'll get on Jeff's list, and Jeff often emails he does a blog every Sunday, which I never miss. And, he's also sometimes looking for people to work with him, and he emails his list, and I might start doing that too. So keep your eyes open. All right. So to wrap it up, I think this has provided a lot of value, even though it's a very different topic for us, but hopefully people will get your book at thelaunchbook.com. But part of my podcast goals are for parents and professionals to be less stressed and lead happier lives. And I know you have some really neat self-care practices that you do every day. What are your top 3 or 5 that you would recommend?
Well, I sort of feel like the world, these things that used to be strange when I talked about them now are pretty much everyone's talking about them. The big one for me is meditation. I've had a pretty regular meditation practice for about 20 years now. Yeah, it's been about 20 years. And that's like a cornerstone. It's something I do when I first get up. Usually within 15 minutes of getting up, I'll have about a 20 to 25 minute meditation. These days, it's out on my front porch. I like being outside for as much during my meditation as much as possible. I live in the mountains in Colorado, so in January and February, I'm not outside. But that meditation is a very simple meditation practice where I'm just focused on my breath. It's evolved. It comes and it changes, but it's pretty much daily. It's a very rare for me to miss a day. I do also probably 80% of the days I've got a yoga practice. It's not some amazing, incredible 90-minute deal. It's usually about 15, 20, 25 minutes I just stuff I picked up either in classes or on videos. I do like getting outside. I'm fortunate to be in Colorado and have amazing outdoor spaces around me. So even if it's just a 15-minute walk or a half-hour walk, I'm a big fan of getting exercise. It's always a much better day if I have some form of exercise. So I do it's generally not the gym for me. It's generally mountain biking or tennis or hiking or skiing. But it's generally something outdoors. And then I'm really focused on hydration. I try to get, I'm actually measured. I fill up a half-gallon glass jar of water. I drink that, and then I try to drink another one. So I think it's hydration, meditation, yoga, getting outdoors, and exercise are the big ones for me. And I know a lot of those, for parents, my kids are grown. They're grown, they're out of the house. But I know for parents, especially for parents, say with children on the spectrum, I get that 20 minutes of meditation, that is not going to happen. But you know what? 3 mindful breaths that take you 20 seconds can really change your day.
Yeah. I think that's great. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much. It's been an honor to interview you here. I know I was on your video blog when my book came out. Maybe we can link that in the show notes as well. And I know I have really benefited from being in your world and really maintaining a close friendship. And I can't see that changing ever. So it's been a true pleasure. And hopefully my audience will learn a little bit more about online, the digital world and really dissemination, how to help your child, your family, yourself with any kind of online courses, especially online autism courses where you're going to find, so much help, hopefully. And we'll just keep moving forward and going up the big mountain together. So thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you, Mary. This is great.
If you're a parent or professional and have benefited from the information you learned from me on this podcast or from my Turn Autism Around book or from my online courses, I would love to hear about your success. Please go to marybarbera.com/success and fill out a very short survey. On the survey, you can upload your book or podcast review, or you can share a picture or a video and tell me how your life has been impacted. I will personally review everything submitted, and I would love to hear from you. I'm on a mission to turn autism around for millions of children around the world so that each child can be as safe, as independent, and as happy as possible. By writing a Turn Autism Around Amazon or podcast review, and by sharing your story with me, you'll be able to help others find out about the Turn Autism Around resources so they can start turning things around too. I can't wait to hear all about your success at marybarbera.com/success. Thanks so much.